Good. Good evening, everybody. If I can have you take your seats so we can get started. I have to compete with the baby, and there's no competing, as you know. And for those of you that were at my victory party after my election as mayor, and Zach and Kate announced that they were pregnant there to the public for the very first time, that's the projection there. So if you'll all stand, my husband's going to open in prayer, and then Ron Johnson's going to launch in the pledge. So, you want to come up here, honey, or are you okay there?
I'm fine here.
Okay.
Lord, we thank you for this time that we can get together here, this fellowship that we can have and we can assemble. Help us not to take that for granted. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, face the flag on the wall, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Glenda Ledford. I think I know everybody here, but anyway, we, as you know, campaigns and candidates. Is that better? Is better? This better? Okay, thank you.
You're fixed.
So anyway, as you all know, that candidates are always recruiting for money, and Valley Republican women are no different. So we have a number of fundraising things going on. And so I'm going to recognize Ron Johnson. We have a great raffle that, and we have a couple people here that were the organizers of the Freedom Festival, and we want to especially thank them for what they did for the Freedom Festival, and hopefully many of you were able to be there and enjoy it. But we had decided we were going to sell 150 raffle tickets for this gun, and we sold, I think, 94, Janet, in those 2 days. So that really put a big dent in the number of tickets that we had to sell. Ron, can you speak up from there, or you want to come up here?
I can speak from here. We've only got about 40 tickets left. Now, this is a commemorative. There was only 3,900 of these made. It was made in Georgia. It's a U.S.-made Beretta. It's a Beretta 96, which is in 40 Smith & Wesson. Most of you former military guys know the 92. I go back far enough in the Air Force. We were carrying the K-38, so that's how smart we were. But anyway, we've got less than 50 tickets left. The drawing will be August 7th, so that's coming up here within a month at the Chili Cook-Off. Tickets are going fast. One of a kind. It's United We Stand. It's got United We Stand here and American flag over here. It is a unique weapon. Like I said, there was only 3,900 made. One ticket. Can put it in your gun safe or in your pocket. Tickets are $20. And the tickets will be drawn August 7th, so you'll know pretty soon if you're a winner. If you'd like a ticket, raise your hands. I'll come around, and we can take credit cards. See Janet. I'll take the cash or check. Anybody that doesn't have a ticket would like one. Okay.
So Ron will be sitting back here at the table for you.
I'll just come and see Stu. Man raised his hand and said he's going to give me money. I don't wait.
We're also asking members, for what we don't get sold tonight, to take 2 or 3 with you to sell, so that we haven't sold out by the time we have our cook-off on August 7th.
This large banner up here is our cook-off, which will be Friday, May 7th. Yes, you're right. Thank you. I guess I want to backtrack a little bit. August 7th at 5:30 at the Palmer Depot. And if you are a chili cooker and you would like to enter the contest, you can. We have last year's winner right here behind me. I'm sure he's probably already thinking about how he wants to win again, but some of you may want to challenge him,
I
so.
won the first year and I've never come back. Lost the pinnacle, that's it, all you needed, right?
Well, you may want to come
Are
back.
you raising your hand for a raffle ticket?
Give me a big thumbs up if you can hear what she's saying up front really good, please.
Well, Gretchen, maybe this is the year to return. Yeah, right. So. And then you will see there are some yard signs for Trump pens. Those are $20. As you know, President Trump has been doing a lot of things differently, which we are very thankful for. And one of those things is that all of us, I think, as we were candidates or we were supporting candidates, you could always get a free yard sign. That's not what's happening in Trump campaign. You have to buy them. So we had these made, and then we also had some t-shirts made. We have large and extra large. They're $20. We have black, white, and light gray. So they're back there on the table if you want any of those.
How much for the sign?
The signs are $20 also. Mhm. Yeah. And I think we only have one, we have three signs left. So, yeah. And I don't know if they're $20 or $30 online, but then of course you gotta pay for shipping, so. And we will hand it free. We won't charge you any delivery tonight if you buy the sign, and we give it to you, okay? So, let's see, Janet and Julie, Kathy, can you think of anything else that we need to announce? Julie's doing split the pot tickets, also.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
also for chili cook-off, if anybody's interested in making a dessert to be brought to our auction, outcry or even silent, we don't know yet, we're gonna definitely do the outcry, but if you're interested in making a dessert, just let me know. I've been asking individuals already, but if you're interested, it would be great to have some awesome desserts, so, thank you. And we have split the pot, I got most of you already.
Yeah, they may want to increase their odds, purchase some more tickets. So, okay. Alrighty, well, I think all of you came to hear the program tonight and not listen to me. So, as you know, we have Senate D candidates here tonight with us, and they are all here except one person, and she had told us a couple weeks ago that she wasn't sure she would be able to be here. Her husband works on the slope, and he doesn't go home until tomorrow, and they have little children. But I told her, you know, a month ago, we had little children here, and probably a lot of you didn't even realize because they were so well behaved. But, so, you know, if somebody says that, go ahead and encourage them to come. So, anyway, and if you were here a month ago, we're going to ask these Senate candidates the same questions that we asked the House candidates a month ago. And I think we will just, let's stop. Huhnkie, let's start with you. Okay, so the first question is, take a minute or two, and Kathy, raise your hand, Kathy. I think all of you know Kathy Mosher. She's the previous, and she's got some signs with some times on them. You will have a total of 5 minutes. The first question, and I'll tell you all the questions in a minute if you need more. The first question, you can take a minute or two and just tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself. The next question will be, if you are elected, give me 2 bills that you will pre-file before the session starts. And then the third question is, are you in favor of the Binding Caucus? And whether your answer is yes or no. does that answer change if Republicans are elected? So, you ready, sir? And you can come up here and use the mic if you want to. I'm sorry the cord doesn't go very far. Or you can stand there, whichever you would like, sir. And if you watched our parade, he was the entry into the parade for the 4th of July. He had on a white suit, and in front of the judges' location, he did push-ups on the pavement, and I did not see one mark on that white suit. Now, I don't know if that makes a difference in who you vote for, but anyway, that's what he was able to accomplish in the parade. Okay, so you want to talk in there, or you want to use this?
Oh, I just talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm myself. So, hello, my name is Lee, and I'm running for Alaska State Senate. So I was born in Ithaca, New York, and I grew up in South Korea for 18 years. I came back to America, Madison, Wisconsin. I majored in computer science, and then went to Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where I was born, studying computational biology for 2 years. But I dropped out after 2 years in the PhD program. And then after that, I made a movie. I went to Los Angeles, California. And I wasn't very successful, but it's in YouTube. So and after that, I joined the U.S. Army, E4 specialist, as an electrician for helicopters. And after 4 years, I was deployed to Afghanistan. And we came back to Fort Hood, Texas. And after I got out of the Army, after 4 years, I went to law school in Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, with the GI Bill money. And after that, I was there. So I graduated from law school in 2 years. And I was watching all these Alaskan TV shows like Yukon Man, Alaska the Red Frontier. So I had to come here. That was 5 years ago. And then after that, I passed Alaska bar exam, so I became a lawyer. Before that, I was working for state of Alaska as a computer programmer. So, and then 2 years ago, I started attending all these wonderful political meetings, and then I decided to run for the very first time. So that's my 2 minutes. And
What 2 bills would you pre-file?
how many minutes do I have?
3 minutes. You have 3 minutes left.
3 minutes, okay.
So you take 2 minutes on the pre-filed bills and then 1 minute on the binding caucus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, 2 bills. First, I want to make it mandatory for prisoners to work because I don't think it's fair. Law-abiding, hard-working citizens would work for them when they are doing nothing in prison. I don't think that's fair. So I would make it mandatory for prisoners to work in prison. And that's my first bill. My second bill would be legalization of farming of Alaskan wild plants and wild animals, because I love oil and gas, PFD money, that's great, but I focus because if we farm Alaska native plants and animals, I think we can make a lot of money. For example, in the world, many people would be very interested in eating bear meat jerky. Okay, so Alaskan grizzly jerky. Oh, people would buy that, okay? And it's dry, it's exportable, and will make international hit. Okay? How about Alaskan wild plants? I tell you what I do. I put them in the vodka, Alaskan berries, I put them in the vodka. So it's preservative, you can export that, and it tastes fantastic. So maybe my 2 bills. And when it comes to binding caucus, of course it's no. We are Republicans. So we want American freedom, constitutional right to speech, and binding caucus, it binds that. So that's not America. So, and to me, Alaska is the last America. We used to have freedom of speech here, except binding caucus. We need to get rid of it. Thank you.
You can use the mic if you want to go over there, or you can just talk from where. Where's the mic?
Right up front.
There. on it, poured on it. So you're gonna have to go and finish.
That's about it right there. My sled?
Volume problem being fixed. Don't forget to share.
Hello. Hello. Hello, I'm Binding Rupright, and I'm a 30-year Matsu resident. I've lived 23 years in Wasilla. I've been married to a wonderful husband for 25 years, and we have 2 children, which I raised in this education system. That's one of, I'm not going to be able to address that tonight, but that is my other focus besides what you hear here, and that is education system. So my experience is 25 years dedicated, conservative, Republican. I mean, I have put the time in. I went with Conservative Patriots Group. I've sat on boards and commissions for the city of Wasilla, so I have experience that way as chairman and writing agendas, doing resolutions and et cetera. Also for the Republican conventions when I went down there, and there was also the Conservative Patriots Group, which of course I supported as a Second Amendment, and Right to Life, and I also worked with the Right to Life organization. And of course I stepped out when we were doing all that against Common Core, which is a horrendous program put on by the federal government for educating or de-educating our children, I should say. So I've done all of that stuff, and I'm using cards today because I'm tuning up on this. My education of 3 years into my Bachelor of Science when I came up here. Then I did the Education for Ministry. That was a 4-year college doctorate course, but I did not do that to become a minister, but because just my own edification. That was the best thing I ever did. And it taught me how to critically think also, besides my other education. And I did 2 more years of theological study after that also. That's what I'll be bringing here. That's 25 years of experience and an education grounded in, I believe, all the values that we hold dear. So I'm going to say that I'm going to be the only candidate here that's going to be with my bills proposing a solution. We've all been so concerned about our budget and our overblown budget and with the lack of money because we just do not have the revenues that we used to have. But there really hasn't been a solution. I know we all want our full permanent fund back, and we want things to go back to the way we are, and I'm a person that looks forward and looks backward. And I saw how we got here. It started with ACEs, and then we had a boom, and then we had a bust, and we went back to SB 21, which were for our oil taxes, which is reasonable. And I want that to stay. But we needed to be budget cutting at the same time that was coming on. And then, of course, we had the huge drop. So we're in a bind. But to just say we can go back the same way we were is not correct, because we're going to be there again. And God forbid that ballot proposition number 1 passes. So we're going to really be back there. It's going to be horrible with the growth of government. But my propositions are, the 2 bills would be, for a spending cap, either we can get the spending cap into the Constitution, but I believe that's going to be very difficult, especially with the judges, because that's going to be something else I talk about, the judges that we have now and the socialists. I mean, sometimes I just can't believe it, how the Democrats have gotten in and just taken over. It's just crazy when it doesn't seem that many of them, and also it is not, I feel, the way that the state as a whole wants to go. So we have that to fight against. So to get it in there, though, I had a different proposal, and that was to actually use the percentage of market value, not the way they're doing it, and separate from the permanent fund, but to use that as a steady marker so that we don't have these wild fluctuations. The market fluctuates also, but that's a much safer bet for budgeting. If we get that budget down to where it's acceptable, then we can start with that. We either get it in there with the percent of market value, or a budget cap. Well, that's going to be super hard to get into the Constitution there. And of course, my second bill goes along with that. I want to start either a trust for the permanent fund. Okay, that'll be totally separate, never in the hands of the legislature. And also, I will have either that or get a percentage into the Constitution. These are solutions. These are just not
You
going
need to
to.
address the binding caucus and all of that.
Oh,
8
gosh.
seconds left.
Okay, Binding Caucus. Oh, and I want to do something with the Legislator. Binding Caucus, of course, I am not for that. As some people have seen, they might feel like they had to join it in order to get a budget passed. I would never do that. I want to get rid of that, of course, through the Constitution. Through the Constitution. And thank you. I just want to say that, I want to run for this office because I want to fight. That's all I've been about for 25 years. I'm going to go down there and really, really push beyond the limit of bureaucracy to make these things happen. And thank you. Vote for me. Let's take it.
All right, I'm Stephen Wright, and I'm running for State Senate District D out here in the Valley. Some of the reasons I've run for office before, I was actually born in Anchorage, Elmendorf Air Force Base, and I was able to get back here. And I've lived in the Valley the last 11 years. I lived in Anchorage when I was little, and in Southeast Alaska for about a year when I taught school. So that's just a little bit about me. The reason why I'm running is I've been concerned for a while about the budget, and now I guess I'm more concerned as well about the Binding Caucus, because that seems to be how the budget is put forward, based on selling your vote ahead for 2 years. Basically, what I wanted to address on the budget was, if you look at it, one of the bills that I'd put first in would be against this, Senate Bill 26. SB 26, the first bill that I put forth is to repeal SB 26, and the reason being is because it changes our earnings, goes from an earnings to a percent of market value, which the percent of market value is really a bad deal, because when you put it into the terms of the budget, basically what it does is it restricts earnings. So essentially, if the fund has been earning 10%, now you're down to 5%. So if you're restricting yourself to 5% of the earnings, the overall earnings of the account, yeah, you're going to grow the earnings, the overall account. So what are we now? $67 billion. So that's going to continue to grow. Last year it grew $6 billion. So that's one thing that I would address. The second one is the Binding Caucus. It's a bad deal. I wouldn't sign up for the Binding Caucus, because what it does, this particular Binding Caucus, caucuses are okay, but Binding Caucuses limit you on your vote and for procedural and budget type items. And as we've seen over time, for example, my opponent, he's voted every time on every budget that we've had. So that tells me that he's not for capping spending. And capping spending is a very important thing in today's budgeting. When I was in the military, the last 4 years I spent on the largest unit on the base, working on C-17s and E-3s, and I had one of the largest budgets that I had to balance, and they were cutting our budget left and right. So the problem with the budget is the operating budget. The operating budget is what's out of control. If you look at the operating budget, you have 72%, I believe, this year of the operating budget is health and social services and Medicaid. So I see that as a problem, and I'll address a little bit about why it is a problem here in a second. But when you have 70% of your budget based on a prior governor's expansion of Medicaid services, and these services that were expanded are optional services. You have folks coming out from out of state that are doing medical tourism and stuff like this. They're only here for a short time to get residence, get a procedure, and leave. And the big problem I have with health and social services, the division of healthcare services right now, is with Medicaid. We have nearly 40% of the Medicaid clients are Alaska Natives, and have an equal amount of program expenditures are made on their behalf. So why is this a concern? Well, because Medicaid's in the budget, it's in the operating budget, it's now costing us our dividend. So do you really want your dividend to go to Medicaid services? The actual reasoning here says maximizing the reimbursements available to tribal providers, and that's off the Division of Health and Social Service website. So what they're doing is they're maximizing the benefits for the providers, not for the people of Alaska. So I see that as a big concern. So that would be the reason that I would be for capping the budget. So And the reason there is for the benefit of the providers. Well, if you look at the providers, all it's doing is it allowing them to get their money faster. Because if you go through Medicaid, you're going to get your services, you're going to get reimbursed faster. But if you go through the federal government, which all these Native services there are available to the federal government. So if you ask folks, do you want to give up your dividend or have the providers wait a little bit to get their money? So I think it's a big problem that we have right now. It seems that if you are interested in re-electing my opponent, then you're also interested in re-electing Kathy Giesel, because pretty much Kathy Giesel has been your representative the last couple of years. So that's my concern. The budget growing too big and all the things that are associated with the budget, and not looking at the operating budget as an important idea that we need to take into mind as we move forward as legislatures. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Loy Thurman. I've been a resident of Alaska for 30 years, and of course I'm from out in the Big Lake area as well. I was a chair out there in District 8, but I didn't like the results that we were getting. We were very conservative there, and so that was the reason why I chose to throw my hat. However, there happened to be 4 people that on the last day came into the running, so I was one of them. So I'm running. As you'll notice, you can pick up one of my cards here. There is a similarity in my facial features to a fellow that is very active on the 24th of December. So therefore, I had to fight him down there because Gail, I'm not sure of her pronunciation, Funanamia or something like that. Anyhow, she didn't want to allow that. She said, well, that's a title. And I said, I looked up the laws and everything else, and I said, nicknames can be used. And so I had to go through the lieutenant governor to then come back down to her, and she said, well, that they looked at it and said, well, following procedures, well, why didn't you do that in the first place? You know? So anyhow, she said you had to provide 5 people, you know, that would vouch for the fact that, you know, that you're known as Santa. So I sent her 10, and I said, if you need additionals, I can supply those for you too quite easily. So anyhow, I have an alias. It's Loy Thurman, and I have been in the military. I was in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam era, and doing that. I also, the Marines pay back to the Navy because we go through the exact same program as what they do with the flight instructors. So I also did that for them as well in advanced jets, that I did that for them. After that, I got out and flew old Beech 18s with radial engines and everything else, having a great time. And then I also flew as working my way up through UPS to captain, and flew for them all over the United States. And also I flew internationally in DC-8s and 747s as well. So I've been able to see a lot, but I love Alaska. As I said, I've raised 2 boys that were up here. Both of them graduated from Colony. Both of them are Eagle Scouts. And the oldest son, Loyal, he runs a national ministry to kids that are at risk. And my other son, Gideon, is a he's a captain down in the Louisville Fire Department. Did I hear my time or whatever? Okay. I was hearing something else. Okay. As far as where I come from, as far as I'm a fiscal conservative, I may say Santa, but I tell you, I'm as conservative as you can get. You won't find them any more conservative than where I'm at. I believe that we should be getting our PFD. That's the people's money. That's their mineral rights. My father was an independent oil producer down in East Texas, so I understand a few of those things. And that's ours should be coming to the people. And if you talk about something that stimulates the economy, give it to the people and let them spend it. I've heard other people say, no, we need to spend it. The government spends it one time and it's gone. If the people spend it, they will spend it either 4 times or up to 7 times, and it will recirculate and everything else. You talk about really stimulating the economy, give it to the people, and it'll just blow the roof off is what will happen. Smaller government, it's absolutely essential. Government never solves any problems. All government does is spend That's all they do. They spend, spend, spend. We've seen that down there. Second Amendments, of course, I'm being a Marine and everything else, you know, and that's absolutely the final check. All the checks and balances in the government, guns are the final check, and that's why Red China, the premier there, wanted us to be able to get rid of those guns, you know, duh, you know, because that's just the way it is. Okay, I see the flag right there. Let's see, Binding Caucus, absolutely not. At that point, you compromised the people that you sent you there in the first place for their vote. You've said your vote means nothing. It's a small group that then makes the decisions of what's going to happen, and then the rest of them just have to fall in line and just do what they want. We've already seen the results of what happened there, of how that if you don't do what they want, then they start stripping positions of chairs. So that's no good. Let's see. I'm active out there in Big Lake Baptist Church, and I enjoy bluegrass music and gospel music, and I sing and play that. Let's see. Bills, definitely for the PFD going along. A junior senator is going to present that much out there to begin with, but the PFD is one, and also against the Binding Caucus, and there's so many others that are true there as well. Let's see. You need any other things? Is that it?
Nope, that's fine.
Anyhow, if you're out in 8 or 7, vote for Santa. And if you don't know for sure about that, ask your kids who you should vote for.
All right, good evening. Thank you everyone for coming out. My name is David Wilson. I am running for re-election for Senator for District D out in the Wasilla, Big Lake. Everyone knows that area. My information's on the card over there for follow-up contact information. My website for folks at home is davidwilsonforsenate.com. You can find a little more information or follow along for folks that are watching this later. Just a little bit about myself. You know, I came to Alaska over 20 years ago to pursue higher education. I always wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest, and I've been to Washington, so I said, what's more north and west than Washington, and came to Alaska. There I went to school at Alaska Pacific University, got degrees in education, psychology, and my MBA in health service administration, where I fell in love with the state, didn't want to go home, and I also fell in love with my wife, where I met there at school, and decided to move out to the valley and start a family. Still working with the family. We just have a fur baby for now, and that's for folks who see me in Juneau walking around with my dog. But, you know, I came to Alaska because this is a place where I love. You know, some of the things that I want to help fix in the state are things in healthcare. That's what got me interested in running for this office. I served, have experience. I served on the ethics board of the Matsu borough here. I was also on the transportation advisory board for the borough. And I served 1.5 terms at the city council on the city of Wasilla, all where we got to learn that all politics are local, and you need to have that. You need to have that relationship with folks. You need to have that. Just be able to know your politicians. You should know what their favorite color is. You should know the name of their dog. Mine's Ellie. And you should know what they stand for. You should have that relationship with them. You should be able to call them on the phone, meet them at the grocery store. And that I have that accessibility. I want to be able to work out in the community. You know, right now, being in the legislature is hard to, when you don't know if you're going to be there for 3 months or 7 months. And so what I do now is I volunteer my time, I say, but I substitute teach and use that education degree. Before that, I served as a domestic violence sexual assault director in that field out here in Palmer. You know, I want to keep this state a place where Alaskans live to live. They want to work, they want to play. So live, work, play. That's what I want to create for Alaskans, that opportunity for everyone to thrive in those 3 areas. You want to live in a state where you have those freedoms, you can have a home, start a family, and be safe with the wonderful, you know, idea, the normal American dream. You know, we want to make sure Alaskans have that opportunity. You want to work in a place where you have economic opportunities and economic diversities. We wanted to make sure that we have places, businesses that are open. Now is a hard time, and I think now we have more opportunities, and we'll talk about that a little later. But also be able to play. And when I play, we recreate. Alaskans know how to recreate. We know how to play hard. We know how to live hard. You know, I think we have the most accidents in our state as well, from skiing, fishing, hunting. You know, if I wasn't campaigning now, I would be probably out in Kasilof dip netting right now. You know, we want those opportunities, and we want that to still happen for Alaskans.
The Binding Caucus, we'll get to these questions here. You know, I was one of the other senators here, so I think all three of us were on a piece of legislation to sponsor to end the Binding Caucus and the constitutional amendment. You know, a lot of people could say, you know, I want to end, but my name is there. I want to end the Binding Caucus. I was there in the beginning of the formation to modify that caucus rule. We fought hard to modify those caucus rules. Unfortunately, we lost out because they didn't want to honor those agreements. And that's what we need. We need leaders that will honor those agreements that are made and stick to those agreements. We fought hard to fight against those consequences. I think my quote was, you know, I don't want my colleagues to be penalized. Why not have idle hands? We have capable folks that can tend the field and the plow. Why punish those folks? If they're doing a great job, let them continue to do their great job. And so that was SB 187 and SGR 17. The two bills that I would like to see and I would file if I got reelected was I would continue to file this repeal of certificate of need. That is a bill that basically would allow healthcare providers opportunity to come to Alaska without the onerous regulatory process of coming to Alaska, and only one person makes that decision in our state. And if you don't like that decision, it goes to one more person, and that's it. The other bill I would like to have is opportunity for education. And we saw with the COVID situation, the opportunity not just to cut the cost in education. Healthcare and education are the two major growths of our budget. They're the two major areas. And we just need more than just eliminate the Binding Caucus. We need plans to how to right size our issues of government. And that's one of the opportunities I think that we have with the opportunities of this COVID situation is that it's more than just cutting the government, but it's actually the right sizing. I think we have an opportunity now to do that with our educational system with the COVID situation. It's been proven. Now it's time to look at ways that we can cut the costs. And with that, I'll hand the mic back over to Mayor.
So, this for those of you that were here a month ago when we had the House Republican candidates in the primary, and do you remember the hard time I had trying to keep them roped in to the 5 minutes? So I just want to thank everybody tonight that has partaken so far. That this meeting's starting to be really easy. In fact, some people after the meeting a month ago were complaining because they didn't think they had gotten their point across, and here comes this lady, you know, and it finally got to, as you know, it got to be a joke at the end of the meeting, like, well, I better wrap this up because here comes Edna. So, yeah. I broke it. Well, some of you could, let's see, Steve, were all of you here a month ago? I know you were, so yeah, so anyway, well, some of you learned very well. Thank you. Okay, we want to open it up to questions from the audience. Dee, you want to come up and use the mic, or can you talk loud enough?
No, I'm just a cheerleader and I'm a teacher, I can do this. So, David, member of the caucus, I want somebody to say why the caucus is in place in the first place. What are the good points of the caucus? Because all you hear are the bad points, only because I have experience on both sides because of whom I'm related to. So.
For those that don't know, her husband, George McKee, is on the Borough Assembly for the Mat-Su Borough. So.
My brother Pete Kelly was in there.
Yes, yeah, right, and her brother's Pete Kelly from.
And I think he's a pretty straight shooter, so I want to know what is it about that. Give me some good stuff about it, because there must be something better when you're Okay, well, hang on, you got your turn. I'm asking David here. David, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I think folks that have heard from Senator Shower and from your relative, former President Pete Kelly, I think the caucus, like all majority minorities, so you're in the majority, you're in a team, you can help set policy agenda because you have more than 11 votes to help push the dialogue of the discussion of where policy is going to go in the state of Alaska. And that's the benefits of being in any caucus. You have a group of like-minded individuals with a set goals and agenda to push that agenda forward. And those, you have the Children's Caucus, you have an Airlines, Aviation Caucus, we have a Millennial Caucus. And so we just look at ways that we can come together under common ground to push an agenda forward. And that's the purpose of a caucus, and that's the true definition. So the pros, again, you just have like-minded folks that can do that, and that's the benefits. Obviously, Senator Shower has spent a lot of time. I'm sure a lot of us have all been on that. Have seen some of those arguments about why the caucus doesn't work, and I agree. I think it does create lazy leadership in terms of having a binding caucus. You don't have to spend much time trying to coerce, sort of gather votes and gather support for your issue. And it can be manipulated and it can be abused. And that's the issue that we've had, that I personally feel that some of the power has been abused in the past, unlike previous times. I've talked to every living president and talked about what's going on now, and they've all said we have never have had that opportunity to do something of that nature. And so, I tell folks out today, my understanding is that we still have a Republican caucus. Every Republican in the Senate is still part of a caucus.
Did you want to hear from anybody else, Dee, or?
Well, I just know David has been with the caucus, and I know David, and I really trust him, and I've heard from Senator Shower, the very first time, very first time I met you, I think it was a convention. Yeah, I didn't do a little caucus thing. So, and that's fine, but I just want to, nothing starts because it's a bad idea. I kind of wish I knew where it went astray. There's got, as David said, there's a good reason for it, but how did it get kind of screwed up?
Egos and power trips.
Because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, that's all.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what happened 30 years ago, or 50 years ago when I was there. So we had a caucus, and but we didn't have a supreme ruler and a dictator, if anybody came close during that period of time in the 80s to get thrown out of the caucus, I could have easily been me, because at that time there was a big push in the state to have a state lottery, and there was a senator from Fairbanks that was very much interested in that. She's now she's passed away, so I don't want to say much. So she, won't be able to stand up and say anything. But anyway, and so the way that bill was written, that it was going to be the local municipalities that was going to handle the lottery. Well, I happen to be chairman of community development and local government. That was a committee at that time. And I was the chairman of that. And so I stood up after the Senate president had assigned it to the various committees. He did not assign it to me, and I felt that as a local government chair that I certainly needed to have some hearings on that bill. So I stood up on the Senate floor and asked that bill be assigned to me. Now, I don't think that's something that would be happening today. And so they did that. Then the Senate president immediately rapped the gavel and said, we will have a caucus meeting. And so we went in. I didn't say anything, but there was some strong words said that, you don't do that. And I said, I'm local government. You want the local government to handle this? It needs to come to my committee, and that's the bottom line. And I was the 11th Republican out of the 20, and so, they needed me. And so we did at that time have a caucus, but nothing compared to what you have now. So, yeah, Senator Shaw.
One thing, because and your critique is fair, because I should have kept my mouth shut. I apologize. I'm sorry. I did, but I want to say one thing, because her question is fair, and I want to be crystal clear. And David said this too. I'm not against the caucus. A caucus is a group of people just getting together. There's nothing wrong with that. I would love to be a part of it. The only thing I and others are fighting is the binding rule to a caucus that forces me to pledge my vote just to be a part of the team when there's 13 Republicans and I can't be on it unless I agree to give my vote. I have a problem with that, which is where Pete and I kind of butted heads immediately. And the power of a small group of people to punish legislators or to coerce them is why it's such an issue, and it hasn't typically been a problem. As I have said, good people can make a bad system work, bad people can tear a good system apart. And so I want to be crystal clear, it's not the caucus I'm against, it's those binding rules that cause those issues. And yes, it can work, but my goal would be, I think, all of us, is to have a system where you don't have to rely on the benevolence of people that can do that. We don't want that. I just want to be clear, I hope that makes sense. So, thank you.
Dee, does that help you?
It did.
Okay, good. All right.
Because I knew there's something to that about it somewhere.
And Democrats started, by the way, just so you know. Very first session, true story. Democrats started the Binding Caucus at the very first session in Alaska. That's where it came from. I found it out about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm good, ma'am. I got 25 years in the Army with my voice production, but this is for you, Senator Wilson. You get the easiest question of the night. It's a yes or a no. Will you join the Binding Caucus? Yes or no?
That's a sight unseen.
Yes or no? No, like, well, if you do this for me or that for me, will you join the Binding Caucus? Yes or no? Don't be a politician.
I'm not being a politician. I'm just telling you
Yes or no?
the reality. The reality of the situation is, you get a group of folks, you get a Republican-led majority. If we would have had what we had last year honored, yes. If we don't have change, no.
So when I look at your vote on the budget last year, okay, so your bottom line is, you don't know what you're gonna do, it depends on what you get out of it?
No. It depends on a lot of factors. And so you're asking me basically to pledge a vote sight unseen. I'm just telling you.
Yes or no, you're gonna join the caucus or not? That's the question.
That's it. I mean, basically, you're asking, am I going to join a caucus? If it's binding, I'm going to do everything in my God-willing power not to have a binding caucus. But you're saying, wait a minute, it's easier to get fed if you're at the table than outside banging on the door asking and begging for scraps. You ask anyone what would happen if I was not in the binding caucus, we would not have a paved KGB today. That's the truth. And, I've done everything in my God-willing power to stand up for my colleagues and for and against the Binding Caucus. I have no loyalty to anybody in that Senate other than to myself, to my God, and to my constituents. That is what I have.
There we go. I am a constituent. I am on KGB road, and I did vote for you before. But on one side, you're standing up telling me you're going to be a full PFD guy.
Yes.
And then when you get the chance to vote, and you could do like some other state senators in here that said no because of what happened, you elected to take the easy way out.
I voted in amendments. I added amendments to the Finance Committee. I've added amendments and voted for the full PFD. I've added amendments for the full PFD, and time after time, every opportunity I had to vote for full PFD, I did. Now, when it comes down to the final vote on a budget, our only constitutional duty is to pass the budget. Yeah, I voted for the budget. That's my record. I urge everyone to go to alaskaledge.gov to look at my voting record and look at my all votes with amendments and everything that's in there for the complete picture. That's it. I mean, I have a record, and I would love anyone to have a conversation with me. I'm available afterwards. I'll give you my cell phone number. Come up to me. My contact information's back there, and we can have a full-on conversation. We sit down, have a cup of coffee anywhere, and to discuss any of my votes or any of my records.
So no answer, no yes, no, no. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Mike?
This is to all of them.
Okay.
The 11th commandment by Ronald Reagan was we don't shoot our own Republicans in the foot.
Yeah.
So, that said, everybody here at this table has said they're a conservative, correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to take that 11th commandment and I'm going to say, instead of Republican, I'm going to say conservatives. So will you stand with Mike Shower, Shelley Hughes, and Laura Reinbold, and Mia Costello, true conservatives, against a binding vote, or will you stand for Kathy Kiesel and the binding vote?
That's the question.
Let's stand. Okay, stand. I'm standing against that. I'm
You bet I will.
Okay,
You bet.
So you will
standing
this
against the binding caucus.
Okay,
So you got your answer, Mike?
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, anyone else have a question for any of the Senate candidates? Okay, all right, I think we have a few minutes. Why don't we start here and just, why don't you wrap it up for a minute or two and we'll go down the line.
Yeah, another question right there.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
And this is not, I'm gonna, probably to all of yours relief, I'm not gonna say the words Binding Caucus. Oh, I said them, I'm not saying. It's actually more serious because it is an issue for us all, and it's affecting the state, and we know it's about the budget, it's been mentioned a few times. So my question is just more on a higher plane for the candidates and for the current legislator. As we know, we're moving into a time, for information, yesterday I sat and talked with the new commissioner of the Department of Revenue. Starting out this year coming up, starting our budgetary discussion, David knows this, we're roughly $1.5 billion short of being able to pay our budget. Before we pay the dividend, folks, to tell you where we sit on how the situation is, that's not all because of the spending and the level of government. That's also because we've been hit with the earnings from the permanent fund, with COVID, the response. That's because of oil is down at a certain level, production and price, probably going to stay there. We have not been able to enact a spending cap, a constitutional one, and I would tell you right up front that a constitutional one is the only way that's going to work, and the reason is because statutes, we don't follow them, so I don't trust that. So we have to have something that has teeth that the legislators cannot easily jump over that hurdle. Without a constitutional change to the current spending cap that's in there, and we're not talking reductions to spending, because that doesn't seem to even be on the table for most people talking now, I'm talking to the legislature in general, we're talking about filling that gap. One way they're going to fill that gap, and I've already done it for 4 years running now, is to take the PFD. It's gone down to half, and now this year it's under a third of what it should be. That's one way they're taking it and taxing certain, the people, but also hurting the poorest amongst us. And here comes the question with all of that set up. Right now, there's talk of, like Kathy Giesel has suggested tax, Click Bishop suggested tax. We're taxing already. And they're talking about various taxes, whether it's an income tax, a sales tax, whatever it would be, because they want to fill the gap. I will tell you personally, I'm not going there until I see that boundary of a spending cap that makes sense, until I see talk of every tax dollar you raise, I see some kind of reduction. I'm not going there. And I don't want to take the PFD because we're hurting the poorest. So my question for the candidates and for Senator Wilson would be your plan, and it doesn't have to be a 5-minute diatribe, because I get it, it takes time, but what is your solution that you would propose or be a part of to solve this problem? Because folks, we are at a fiscal cliff in the state. We are. The only choices now are to tax, reduce, or take money from the permanent fund. We can't. So, and what I'm asking is, what would their solution be? Because they're going to have to be a part of it, or we are in trouble in this state. So what would each of them do to help solve that fiscal problem we have? Maybe 2 or 3 of their ideas for solutions. Thank you.
Okay, and if I can keep you to, let's do it like a minute and a half, Kathy. So, would you start here?
5 minutes to explain the question.
Sorry, David.
And he's not even running for office this year.
We're always running for office. All right, so quickly, Alaska's been in troubled times before, we're in a troubled time now, and we're going to have troubled times in the future. But we're resilient, and so I feel that we look at ways, our staff right now is working with the Department of Education to look at a way to, I don't want to say reduce the BSA, because that's not what we're trying to do, but we're trying to find ways to build more of a private-public partnership. We've done this before already in Hess. We retooled sort of that department in terms of healthcare workforce recruitment, and with expanding behavioral health care, we spent $3 million, but actuarially says we're going to save the state $52 million. So we've already have plans to do this and to work with the Department of Ed to try to save that cost, because those are 2 largest departments, is education and Hess. Other than that, I tell the back plan is next election cycle, you're going to have opportunity for a constitutional convention. Vote yes. That's the only way you're going to get certain items in the Constitution, like a PFD, like a spending limit. And you're going to have that opportunity. I'm working with lots of other folks to raise funds for that and to start working on a campaign to have a constitutional convention, because that's the only way that we're going to get some of these items in the Constitution that you really care about, that really matter. Because I don't think we're going to have the votes to do that in the Senate and the House. We came close in the House a couple of times. I think we got 11, 12, I think. Looking at my colleagues about that for some of what we wanted to do, but we couldn't get to 14. And it takes 14 of us to vote to get a constitutional bill passed. So with that, thank you.
What Mike talked about is absolutely the truth. $17 billion they have squandered during this past time. And you're wanting to put the same people back down there who squandered this money to begin with, and you think you're going to get different results. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to get people who are really serious about cutting this thing. With this COVID and everything else, and what we went through that with the educational, to be having, I believe it's 53 different school districts that we have in Alaska, with superintendents, principals, assistant principals, assistants to the assistant principals. Well, where's the education going to the students and also to the teacher? I don't know why this thing's acting up. It might be liberal, I'm not sure.
That's where your finger is. That's where your finger is.
Oh, that's where my finger is? Okay. Well, the finger needs to be heavy on our budget is what it needs to be. It really needs to be cutting it down. And until they're serious about cutting, then you shouldn't even be talking about any money being cut from the PFD. So, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is. It's, you know, we're in a serious problem. They've squandered the money in the past. And so you want to cut a little million here, a million there? That's not enough. It's 1,000 millions to make $1 billion. You know, and they've been spending that over their budget. I mean, come on, folks, we're talking about big money. This isn't just kind of like, well, we're coughing in the economy here, and it's just a little deal. We're talking about something very, very serious, and some cuts have to occur. And we're not playing games anymore. So, you know, get serious. Get serious. It's cut time.
Okay, so with the budget, of course, we know that the operating budget is where we're having the increases, and that's something that has to be looked at really closely. I know Laura Reinbold had several suggestions. There's a lot of things that you can look at. First of all, I think the main thing is we're going to have to get back to average earnings from percent of market value, because right off the bat, you're restricting your budget to half of what you should be looking at for earnings. Of course, you have to inflation-proof the fund, the permanent fund. But what you do, instead of sending $5 billion back into the corpus of the fund, you have to take a strong look at the 50-50 Hammond, which allows you to use the other half of the earnings, which the legislature isn't looking at. They're shuffling it away because of the percent of market value. That's the reason why you have the downward pressure. Because you have a $1.5 billion shortfall, essentially what you have to do is you have to look at the other half. So, for example, the permanent fund earnings earned $6 billion last year. Today's market, we're already back to $67 billion in the fund. So, essentially, you take that average earnings, and what you do is you treat it as you should with a 50-50 split, and you let the legislature use that half of the earnings to fund your budget, but on the other hand, you don't touch the permanent fund dollars as well.
Oh, does anyone have a solution? Okay, we could get rid of the Senate. That's $500 million right there. So anyway, I thank you, because you just mentioned 2 times about my percentage of market value plan idea. Not the ones that they have going on right now, but you just did say that, yes, it curbs spending. Thank you for repeating that several times. I like that. But anyway, yeah, we need the spending cap, and to do that I've been doing my homework, so we actually have, it doesn't matter what's in that principal, it's what's in our earnings reserve account. That's what we get to spend, and that was 17 million, or billion, that's the last time I looked at it, with 6 billion of it already, you know, that's what they say on there, That's what the permanent fund corporation states. It's already $6 billion coming out of that for us thing. So what have we got now? Now we've got $11 billion. That's it. His question is right on the mark. What are we going to do? That's why I was trying to find some solutions with this cap, and then also to save the permanent fund, to create a permanent fund trust, or we're just going to get another percentage, market value that's going to be in the Constitution so that we always and permanently save the permanent fund. But as far as getting to get more money, I mean, we need to develop. We haven't done that. Oh, we're going to have to spend some of that money to develop. We got to have something going on in Point Thompson. We got to have something going on in Anwar. We're going to have to spend some of that money there too. That's what we need to do, is develop. That's what I believe in, and I just can't believe what's going on in this state with the spending and us not having any returns for it, not even one new road, okay? Do we need to go there? So that's how I feel about it. And I mean, no, I don't have a very, the perfect answer for you, but I think that where I'm going is something that makes sense. And of course, with the cutting, and as far as cutting, budgeting, I really believe in, education, high end of administration, they're so fat with their overhead. Get rid of it.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes,
You need it.
Yes, you do.
No. Yes,
You do.
Oh, I will.
They want you to use.
We can't hear you.
Do I have a minute or minute and a half? Just 1 minute?
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Oh. Okay, so to make money, to save money, there are two ways to do it, okay? You make more money than you spend. That's one way to do it. Second way, you spend less than what you make. Okay? My focus would be making more money than you spend. Okay? So I have some innovative ideas to how to make more money. Okay? So, for example, spruce beetle killed trees. If we debark those trees, now we have this bark. Okay, we'll purify the bark filled with all these spruce larvae and beetles, and we'll make a compost, protein-rich compost, and we'll sell it. Okay? And when it comes to bear farm or any Alaska wild animal farm, it won't be just a farm. It will be zoo, safari, feeding zoo, if not petting zoo. Okay? So yeah, we can make a lot of money out of that. And we love salmon, right? But salmon is not the only edible seafood. We have all different kind of sharks, orca, squid. They're all edible, okay? So yeah, we can make a lot of money off of this edible seafood. Blue kelp, edible. What do I do with that? I put in the vodka, okay? It tastes fantastic. All right, thank you.
Okay, we can take one more question from the audience, if anybody has one for the Senate candidates. Okay. Oh, sure.
Well, I don't need that. I'm kind of like Shower there. I got a loud voice.
Okay.
I hear every year, and Senator Shower brought it up, that it's a $1.5 billion shortfall that we're looking at this year. But it was also a 1 point something shortfall last year, and a 1 point something shortfall the year before that, and a 1 point something shortfall the year before that. I've not yet, but from a few of you, heard any solutions to take care of that shortfall other than take from the permanent fund dividend to make up what is not there. I would like to hear at least one solid solution from each one of you that you can give us, that you are willing to go to Juneau and fight for to resolve the problem of the shortfall. Either it be deep budget cuts to the three top departments that we have out there, healthcare, Department K through 12, and the universities of Alaska. Those are the three that take the biggest, largest chunks out of our budgets, and everything else is kind of fodder in the wind except for ferries, which always seem to be on the chopping block. Name me something.
Stephen, why don't we start with you in the middle and then go either way, because we've already started at either end, so we're just very, very back.
Okay, so there we go. Yeah, so first of all, I look at Medicaid because the Medicaid reimbursables that we're getting, the expansion of services has cost us about $1 billion. Okay, over since we've expanded Medicaid, it's cost about $1 billion, and that area is what 30 something percent fraudulent. So something that we need to really take a close look at is Medicaid. Additionally, we need to look at all the school districts in the state as far as we need a rural school district. We need to combine some administrative services. We need to consolidate some things to enhance the school budget, of course. I know it's come up as well over time. It's something that can be looked at. I mean, in Southeast Alaska, I was in a school district. We worked 4-day school weeks. So that was before COVID. So anyways, there's some options there. There's some things there to do with technology. There are some additional things that we can look at, not only with healthcare, with the big three services. We need to take a close look at each one of these things, and we need to be able to cap spending in a way that allows all of the opportunities that we have to go forward. And that's pretty much what I have at the moment. Thank you.
Whichever side you want to go to.
Go ahead, David. I'm looking at you.
So we already talked about ways to cut in education, try to make HES more efficient. It's about trying to see about making cuts, and I've offered bills, let's say cut the 1% of art programs, save $12 million. You know how hard people fought to keep that 1% of art there for road construction projects? It doesn't have to do a darn thing with services. It keeps everything exactly the same, but you just don't make the concrete and those wonderful fabs and forms and that artwork. You know, it was like $10 million for that little waterfall you see in the airport. I'm sorry, $10 million. That was a $100 million project. I mean, those are the type of things you see in state government that we can just cut out. And so we've offered programs to cut that. It's so hard to get those cuts. I've offered bills to reduce some of the ways that some of the granting, make those granting agencies a little bit more accountable for those sources. So it's adding accountability and structures and programs to help make them more accurate, more just reliable. That you don't have the wasteful spending if you have accountability within those programs as well. And so those are things that I've looked at in terms of retooling the way that we're doing government, the way that we're doing business, trying to make things more efficient, and just time to, we don't have milkmen and elevator operators for a reason. We don't need them anymore. But there's so many other programs that we don't need that the end user who get those services won't even see a change, but we can cut off the middle part of administration within that, and you won't see a cost or change of services to the people of Alaska. But it's really hard to get in there because what we have in the administration, the governor's had the same problem, is we have what they call the weebies. We be here when you're here, and we'll be here when you're gone. And luckily we have an administration to fight through that red tape and to get rid of those folks so we can make those changes. And now's the opportunity to make those changes.
Well, we've got a mess. We got a big mess involved in this situation. The governor hired a lady to come up here to do an analysis on the facts of the status of the finances. The point being was that if every person who earns a living, husband and wife, would pay $10,000 per year in taxes, we would only come up with $500 million, okay? Half of $1 billion. Well, look at where we're already at. We're already short $1.5 billion. So you're still short $1 billion. So the bottom line is they say, oh, let's just increase the taxes. It isn't going to work because there's not enough there to be able to cover the expenses of how much that they spend. So the expenditure has to be cut. And as you're talking about this, you can just say, okay, everybody takes a 5, you ask for a specific answer, there's a 5, everybody gets a 5% cut straight across the board. I don't care what it is, everybody gets 5%, and that's the way it is, because everybody's got to suck it up a little bit. Coming back a little bit, the chairman of the Health and Social Services, which is one of the largest budgets that there is, has just made minimal cuts that's there involving that. So And also then we talk about education. With the COVID, you should be doing electronic portions of having the best teachers the very super teachers. You know, when I was going through school, I only had 2 math teachers. What do you mean 2? There was only 2 of them that could teach. The rest of them were just graders. And so you could have the very best technological teachers there and then have tutors to be able to assist. And we definitely could cut the administrative costs of that, because that's where the big bucks are and where we're losing. And so those are some of the things solutions there to what you're talking about. But it's going to have to take people who are going to be willing to stand up and to say no, and not run whenever it comes time for the vote, but you stand on the floor and you take the heat and say, no, this doesn't float. And I can do that.
It's where they're holding the microphone.
Already, I think that yes, we can do with more cutting of the budget. So most definitely, one idea has to do with education. This is something I wouldn't come out with before because I have to flesh it out. I've actually supported the governor before in his voucher. That was at some meetings and I wrote some letters. So I'm all with our governor about education, but I think it needs to be from the bottom up. Principals need to be running their school and that community in that school. There is like a serious issue with the administration, the overhead in our education system, and I believe there's just a lot that we cut out of there. We're still going to keep our teachers in the classroom, get them a much better education with a different curriculum. But so, those are the things I want to focus on there. I'm talking about, I think there could be considerable cutting there. And with Medicaid, you know, so that's really big. I think, are we stuck in that? I'm sorry to show my ignorance, but are we stuck in that forever? Since we were, since Robert joined us. Excuse me?
It's going to take federal help.
Okay, then we need to seek that federal help. So there's an answer for that. So see if there's anything else. I mean, we're talking about cutting. Yes, we just grew beyond our means, and it's going to be severe. And I'm sorry to tell you that. I wish I could say that it's going to be better, but we have to do everything we can to not totally crash us at the same time, because that would mean 4 of our neighbors, or 1 in 4 of our neighbors on the road, and that would also for the state and for our neighbors. Thanks.
So 1 minute and a half.
It's the hand mic.
So when it comes to healthcare, it's economics, right? If there is limited supply and huge demand, then you will drive up the price. That's economics, right? So healthcare cost is too expensive because too many people are sick, all right? COVID-19, yeah, whatever. So what the best vaccine, the best medicine, cure all, panacea, I'll tell you what it is. Regular exercise and healthy diet, that's it. Right? Yes, personal hygiene, social distancing, okay? So if everybody, you know, no legislation necessary. I'll just lead by example. I run, do push-ups, sit-ups, just like I was in the army. And I eat healthy. In my breakfast, all I eat is tofu, beans, vegetables, fruits. Okay? I'm not vegetarian though. Okay, so yeah, the people being healthy, less demand for healthcare, lower the cost of health system. Education do not need any money. All the knowledge in the world is right here. Internet, cell phone, okay? Education does not need any money. What needs is discipline, okay? Spirit. That's what will make people, young people study, okay? So we don't need money for that. We need spirit, discipline. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to switch now to that lesser city to the west of us.
We take offense. As Senator from District D, it's all here.
So let's go. we have to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, tell you.
Stay off of the button.
So anyway, one of the elections that will be coming up in October is the mayor's race in the city of Wasilla. According to APOC, as of yesterday, there were 3 people that had filed a letter of intent. One gentleman is not here tonight. He did get a written invitation, and I also called him and left a message. And I don't know what his affiliation is, but I did explain to him in the message that although we are the Valley Republican Women, that there would not, quote, be any Republican questions. So if he felt, that that was going to be a problem for him, but he's decided not to come. So we have 2 candidates, and the questions that I have for them are, the first question is, what has Mayor Cottle done in his 6 years that you supported and thought was a really great idea? Could be, something he'd be remembered for after, his term is over. The second question is, what has he done that you do not agree with? Okay, can I have attention, please? Please honor the people that are at the table. Please honor the people that are at the table. Thank you. So, the second question is, what has he done that you disagree with? The third question is, what plans do you have to be one of the very first items in your administration within the first 6 months that you're going to push that's not currently on the agenda for the city of Wasilla? And then at the beginning, you can, of course, give your name. Okay? You want me to go over the questions again? Okay. So, ladies first, men first.
The youngest one can go first.
By 3 days or something? Or by 3 days or something? Is that what?
Well, if I'm the youngest, we're in deep trouble here, so sorry to hear that, Glenda. But, my name is Stu Graham, and I'm a city councilman in the city of Wasilla. I've been there 6 years, finishing up my 2nd term on the city council. Wasilla does have term limits for the city council and for mayor. Each of them are 2 terms, and then you, if you want to go back to the council or back to being mayor, you need to sit out a year, at least a year, and then come from there. Edna did mention that we have the mayor's race coming up this year in October, and there are 2 city council seats coming up as well. So there's a lot going on in Wasilla to shape the future. And when it comes to shaping the future, I think what we want to look at, or I hope what you're wanting to look at, is I think you're wanting to look for somebody who's been consistently a leader in the community. And we've got plenty of opportunity to go out and do things. And so, I did 13 years in the Air Force as an officer, got out, and then almost immediately, became a Republican precinct captain. Back then, this was back in the Bob Penny days, so it takes you back a few weeks. Became a Republican precinct captain to help make sure that we got the right people in the right spots to make government work. And then from there, started having kids. I have 3 children that are grown, as you may have guessed from the color of my hair. But I've got 3 kids that are grown, but of course then you become more interested in the local community events. So when my kids were in school, there were no computers back then. But we had the opportunity, to introduce computers in the school, and the school district said, no, we can't do that. So as the vice president of the PTA, I said, that's bull. So we went out and we raised the money, and Stu went in with a screwdriver and helped build a computer lab with the PTA. And then from there, your kids go on. I became active in the Cub Scouts because I have 2 boys, and the Cub Scouts is a great way to help develop character. And then from there, you move into Little League, and you move into softball and baseball. I have boys, 2 boys and a girl, and always active in those events as well. So not just active in showing up for the games, but active in the leagues and active making sure that we've got the money to move forward and going out and recruiting and making things happen. And then, of course, as kids get older and they get into high school, they get into a bunch of different things which become way more expensive and way more time consuming. But that's just the way it is. There are very, I don't know if there are any of us in this room that are not parents, that don't know what it takes to raise kids and don't know of the opportunities that are out there and don't look at your neighbor and go, man, I'm really glad that he's doing that because that means I don't have to do that. But I need to do something, and I've always been, that leader in the community that has always been there when something has come up. I've been active with the Chambers of Commerce for over 20 years, served on the board of the Palmer Chamber of Commerce, or the Wasilla Chamber of Commerce, so Edna can thank me for what she has today. But active on the board, Palmer Chamber of Commerce, where I was president, Wasilla Chamber of Commerce, where I was president, the Alaska State Chamber of Commerce, which is now called the Alaska Chamber, and have served on national committees for those chambers as well. So what I offer is that consistent community leadership. And whether I win or lose, I'll still be a community leader. I won't necessarily be the mayor, which would be a real disaster. But just kidding. Won't necessarily be the mayor, but I'll always be there. I'll always have something to say. I'll always be there to fill a need, and that'll be great. And Edna has 3 questions. Talking about Bert Cottle, finishing off his second term as mayor. What has he done that I like? That's going to be his legacy. I think his legacy is going to be being able to move the Veterans Wall of Honor and to preserve that and to make it better. That is now in Wasilla, where the old Iditarod school facility used to be. That is going to be his legacy. He's the one that acted as a statesman and a leader and brought that forward. What has he done that I don't like? Well, being the mayor of Wasilla means you're the mayor and the manager. It's a little bit different than most other cities. So being the mayor and the manager, you have to work both ends of the street. And when you do that, sometimes it appears that you're not as transparent as you need to be. I haven't been the mayor, so I can't say to that, but I would like to see more transparency in the office of mayor. And what are the first plans, I think was your last question. What should I do first? As the mayor, you are the person in Wasilla that appoints the directors of the different departments. We currently have an acting police chief. We've had an acting police chief for several months, since our police chief retired. And the first thing that needs to be done is to start an honest-to-God search for a permanent police chief. That may be the acting police chief, who knows? But I do know this, I'm not going to make the acting police chief the police chief unless he's the best person for the job and the best person to help ensure the safety of our residents and those traveling through our community, and a person that can look forward and make the police department more effective. I think Kathy told me I was out of time about a minute ago, so I'm doing my Bernadette Rupright impression here. But thank you very much. Once again, my name is Stu Graham.
My name is Glenda Ledford, and I've been a resident of the city of Wasilla for 34 years. I've cut hair in the city of Wasilla for 34 years. Can you imagine how many people I've done in that length of time? I currently own a small business. I have a salon and a beauty school. I also have 4 children. Of course, they're all grown. I have 9 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. which I am very, very proud of my family. My youngest son owns Heat Source on Wasilla Highway. My daughter has worked at MTA for 23 years. The oldest boy still lives in Georgia, owns his own business. The middle boy works on the pipeline. He is a master mechanic. And one thing that we have done as a family, and we do everything together as a family, but one thing that we do is whatever one person in the family is involved in, we're all there. My grandkids went to Wasilla Christian School and Wasilla Lake Christian School, and my son started the basketball team. And I have to tell you, some of those kids had never handled a basketball, much less played in a game. And there wasn't enough boys to have a boys team or girls to have a girls team, so they had a co-ed team. And one of the boys, he didn't know which end of the court to go to. So we would all be going, no, 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 the other way, the other way, the other way. But they went on, and my son was the coach, so they went on to win a state championship. So I'm very proud of those kids. And doing hair has really served an extremely good thing for me, because I was served on the board of the Barbers and Hairdressers for the state of Alaska for 8 years. And 6 of those 8 years, I was the chair. I always wanted the best for our industry. And out of that, because I was on the board, I could serve on a national board, the National Interstate Council of State Boards of Cosmetology. That is the organization that develops and secures the tests that our industry takes. I am still a subject matter expert for the organization. I have served as a chair of the District 7 ever since it's been District 7, and it was District 14 before that. And I was chair for 2 years before we became District 7. I've always been involved. I have waved many signs. I have helped with all kinds of fundraisers. Whatever I could do to put forth our conservative candidates. I've been to Juneau, and you all know I can talk. So I've been to Juneau and lobbied, whatever. But having had, I seen a need in 2010. I had too many people coming through, and it's like, I really want to be a hairdresser. I want to do better, help myself. But I have to work. I am proud to say I'm the only school in this state that takes part-time students, because they can work, they can come to school, get an education, they can get a hand up instead of having to take a handout. They can be proud, and that is one of my main missions. So, I guess I talked too much.
That's okay, go ahead.
Anyway, the question about Bert Cobb.
Yeah, right. What would you see his legacy?
His legacy definitely is going to be the Veterans Wall and our new police station. If you've not had a chance to tour it, please do so. It is one of the best in the state. And what I've disagreed with, I can't say just one specific thing, but I'm telling you, I've had a lot of disagreements with Bert over the years. But what specifically off the top of my head, I don't know.
Because you've served on the council.
5 years. And I was on the planning commission for 6 years before that. So, what I will do, when I'm elected, you have to have your own team. I don't care who you are. You've got to have your own team. And we need, they tell us that Wasilla has the only conservative council in the state. We've got one of the very, very, very few. And, but you have to have a conservative team to put forth your agenda. And we want to keep the budget flat. We have zero property tax, and we want to keep that zero property tax. And we do whatever we can to try to take care of our seniors. And they can tell you, I'm over there all the time, because, I'm one of them. So that's my thing. Hopefully, I'll be Wasilla's mayor. We're the 3rd largest city in the state.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't understand about the city of Wasilla's type of government, they have what they call a strong mayor, very similar to what what Anchorage has. And so they have the mayor, then of course the mayor has, what do you call it, just administrative assistant? Deputy administrator that works closely with them. I don't know, maybe the two of them should make an agreement, whichever one gets to be mayor, the other one would be the deputy assistant or something. Anyway, Senator Wilson, you had a question?
Thank you. Currently, the current mayor believes in forward funding in terms of large capital projects, where he goes out and asks the taxpayers for that increase in sales tax to help pay for the police station in the past, to help pay for the library. So there's low debt basically on the books of the city of Wasilla. I'm not sure, still zero debt, large.
Just a little bit on the water.
Yeah, the wastewater, which is a utility fund. Is that your still current plan, is to forward fund, or do you plan to look for debt bond obligations for large capital projects, let's say like airport expansion of the apron?
I definitely plan on forward funding. Why should I go out and find bonds and whatever to settle that debt? I mean, look at the economic times we're living in. So why would I look for something to settle that debt onto my kids?
Thank you, Senator Wilson. And you're right. Currently, the city doesn't have any debt, with the exception of a couple $100,000 for our water system, which will be paid off next year, and then the city will be debt-free. We have worked for years to forward fund projects. The library project was forward funded, so by the time it was finished being constructed, it was paid for. The new police station was about $12 million. By the time that police station is completely occupied, which will be this month, it will be completely paid for. So that's a great way to do things. Bonds, the city does do some pass-through bonds for nonprofit agencies. We did some bonding to help Chickaloon, but those are pass-through bonds. Those are revenue bonds that don't affect the city, so they don't show up on our books. They just allow folks to be able to take advantage of the low municipal bond rates and the tax advantages that come with that. But as far as the future goes, airport expansion, that's, you're looking at a $30 million project. What did we spend on the port? $15 million, and we're still paying for the port, which doesn't do anything yet. It has tremendous potential, but it's not doing anything yet. So I'm not going to tear down the cornfield and build a baseball field and hope that they will come. That's not the answer. The answer is, if the citizens of Wasilla want a big project coming forward, they will let us know, and they will vote for a sales tax increase to make that happen. Thank you.
Hi, I would like you to move the October election to November, so that it's easier on us to take care of all the business at one time. So So I don't know what power you have for that, but that's my 2 cents. Better turnout, more convenient.
It only takes 12 signatures.
Yeah, currently the municipality or the city of Wasilla votes in October, the municipal election, where only municipal issues are decided. So you're right, it's not part of the November election. I believe that by having it in October, it allows the candidates to come before groups like this and be heard. If I'm having to talk over President Trump and Nancy Pelosi, you're not going to hear a damn thing I have to say, and you may not want to hear it anyway. But the city has an active program to support folks that want to get absentee ballots. It's very easy to do. We have an early voting program, so you don't have to show up on October 6th. If you want to show up on October 6th, I think that's great. You can do that, but there are a plethora of opportunities for you to vote on a day other than October 6th. But if we're going to vote on local issues, and I'm a huge believer that the best government is the government closest to the people, and for most of us that is our city council and our mayor, we need to be able to speak to the issues and be heard. I don't have any signs out yet that say, vote for Stu Graham for mayor, because we want to hear what these people have to say, and we want to vote the right people to come to the general election in November. After the primary, well, it's open season as far as I'm concerned. But by having the municipal election in October, where it stands alone, that's where you can focus on local referendums, local issues, and get to know the local candidates without having to fight for space in a crowd like this to be heard. But I appreciate exactly where you're coming from, but I think we've got plenty of opportunities to get around the one day. Thank you.
I too support us voting in October because it does give us the opportunity to focus on our municipality and what is before us. And that way we can focus on getting in touch with all of our citizens. They have an opportunity to come and talk to us, whatever. Absentee ballots are already on. They will be going out, I think, a couple of weeks, Jamie said. Anyway, and you can do early voting. So, but having said that, if the citizens want to vote in November, then they can do a referendum, put it on the ballot, and here we go.
So anyone else have questions of the candidates for mayor for the city of Wasilla?
The big city.
We're the third largest city.
Economic hub of the valley.
I have a question, Ed.
Oh, sure.
So Wasilla has grown a great deal, and especially there's a large medical complex currently on septic systems next to the lake, which is the primary place for gathering for recreation. Could you two address how you might solve that growing problem?
I think first of all, we have to, because our sewage system will only accommodate so many. And we have to be careful, because people's like, why don't you annex and whatever. You have to be careful what you're going to annex, because if you overtax this system, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. So with those two medical complexes, I think that they need to, first of all, are they in the city?
Not currently.
So therefore, we have no jurisdiction because they're not in the city. If they were annexed in, then they would be provided with sewer and water. So I think you need to come and sit down with Public Works and Planning and see where we go from there.
Thank you, Barb, for that question, and that's a question that's valid all throughout Alaska. I mean, we have tons of elderly, so to speak, sewer systems and sewage lagoons that we need to deal with. And Glenda is exactly right. The city has a limited amount of capacity when it comes to dealing with sewage. The council did recently pass some money to expand the sewer system out there. We've got a world-class sewage facility out there, but it can only handle so much. And when it comes to providing that service to folks outside the city, that has to be something that the folks that are going to benefit from it are going to pay for. So, for instance, moving down Bogart Road, the owner of Everett's, the Matsu Resort, former Matsu Resort, wanted to have city water down there, and we said, well, if you can get the people to vote for it, we'll put it down there. And all he had to do was to get the property owners that would be affected to vote for it, and so they would come inside the city and they would have ended up with city water at that time. But they decided against it, even though, unlike Palmer, there is no property tax in Wasilla, so they would have actually been saving money by doing that. But the fact was, the city was going to put the water main in there, and if your water well failed, then as a resident of the city, you would be required to hook up to city water as opposed to putting in a new well. And that made people uncomfortable, and they didn't do that. And the same thing with sewage there. We do have sewage facilities. We've got lift stations all over town. We do have capacity to handle some growth, but in the case of a major industry like the health industry or something like that, it's going to be expensive to be able to add that on to the city, and the users need to pay for that. We all pay a little bit, but the ones that are getting the direct benefit are going to pay more.
So let me do a commercial for Palmer. Palmer does have property tax. We have 3 mills, and as they said, Wasilla does not have property tax. Included in our property tax is our fire service area. They tax their citizens separately for the fire service area, which I understand is like 2.7 mils. So there's like 0.3 of a mil, the difference between our property tax and what they pay for the fire service area. So.
And just for the record, we don't tax people for the fire service area, that's the borough.
Right, but you guys should pay that. You got all the money, you guys should pay it, and then you could say that you don't do it. No, we get along really well together. We're just, maybe outside the football team, but, we have, politics has to be fun, and you have to be able to enjoy it. You can't be at each other's throat all the time, and so I've known these people, I don't know, longer than we're alive, but anyway.
I think I just need to pass a resolution just to stop this.
So anyone else have a question for?
I remember years ago, Bert Cottle was in Juneau, and I met with him, and they were voting on putting in the Point McKenzie Bridge in that port area, and he thought it was a fabulous idea, and I would look at that as a legacy, even over and above the airport idea, expansion. It's a matter of building our infrastructure and the safety in case of earthquakes or anything. We need to develop this port. It would be good for just exporting and importing and just building our economy, even with the spruce beetle, wood or whatever it is, And I feel just for transportation and the growth of population, seeing the traffic jams on the weekend, coming just one way from Anchorage back and forth, and that's it, just one road. It's ridiculous. So I would say that would be a legacy and a priority. What do you think about that?
Well, it would be a priority. It couldn't be a legacy because it's not built.
Yeah.
So, and it's all outside the city of Wasilla.
It's borough, it's not the city.
Yeah, it's a borough. So, but anyway, I'll let them.
Well, as a general comment, you're exactly right. I mean, transportation is always the number one priority in any community, whether it's an aging community or whether it's a growing community. The ability to move effectively throughout the city is paramount. And in Wasilla, that is even more so because Wasilla is the commercial hub of the Mat-Su Valley. You know, we've got the government hub, the medical hub in Palmer, so they need to have great transportation as well. In Wasilla, I mean, we have 82,000 cars a day go through one of our intersections. That's a lot. You know, 82,000 cars a day for a city which is roughly 9,000 people. You know, so that's a lot. So transportation needs to happen. I've always been a big supporter of the Kinnick Arm Crossing, or the bridge if you want. I'm a big supporter of the Susitna-Watana project as well, because without energy we can't develop anymore. And if we could develop more, get more power down to the dock, you know, we would be able to develop more down there. But yes, we do need to have those projects going on. And even though the bridge might have a bit of a negative effect on Wasilla, because right now all roads lead to Wasilla. You got to go through Wasilla to get to just about anywhere. But being able to bypass Wasilla, there's been a DOT project to build a bypass for years and years, and I think it's finally dead. But the Kinnick Arm Crossing is still alive and would be a great project, not just for the borough, but for the state to really open up economic development, and economic development is what drives our state forward.
I definitely would be in favor of the bridge. Because when they took out the bridge in Eagle River, it should have been a wake-up call. Because, you know, we have, according to statistics, we have 3 days food on the shelf. What if one of the Kinnick bridges go out? What if we have a terrible earthquake and they go out? What are we gonna do, folks? You know, it should be, because the borough is a big hub. We are the bedroom community of Anchorage. And we need all of this infrastructure to be in place. And frankly, I think that Wasilla gets treated like a red-headed stepchild in a lot of ways when it comes to economic development. And we're the easiest place to build because we don't have all of these restrictions. So some of you senators to be, and some of you senators, we need the bridge. And we also need, do you realize if we could get Costco, do you know that gives us emergency food? But we can't get that because they can't get a package store license. So think about that, guys. You know, it takes, you've heard the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes the whole state to make it work. And we all need to be working together to get this state to going because it's a trickle-down effect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the mayoral candidates in Wasilla? Okay. What time, Kathy, what time? Almost 9 o'clock. Okay. Mike had one question to the Senate candidates that he wanted to ask, and then it's just going to be what, a yes or no for the answer. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
In the news last couple of days, they're talking about $1 million to tear down a house in Seward. $28 million to renovate it. Now, this place is about the size of my house, 3,200 square feet. I could sure as hell tear mine down and rebuild it for probably about $400,000 total. So my question is, yes or no, will you really fight to get a handle on these grants? Because we could save a hell of a lot of money just on grants alone.
You know what he's talking about, right? The Jesse Lee home.
Yeah, just for folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, he's talking about the Jesse Lee home in Seward, the school that Vinnie Vincent went to. I don't believe the state should be on the hook for that. I think that needs to come from more private donors, more Wyatt based, but the state alone should not be the one holding that. So no, I did not support the funding of the original funding of that.
Nope.
Yeah, I would also be a no on that. Thanks.
Yes, that's a no to that. And also, I want to see other, like an 80/20 split. One of our legislators is running on that for charitable organizations. We really need to take a good look at that because that's actually something I mentioned the other day at other forum. So yes, I'm totally against that.
Is it okay if I just say it? The answer is no. How much money would I need to tear down that house? $1. How? I just need maybe $10, okay? I will buy gasoline. My lighter, I don't need to buy a lot. I'm so poor, okay? That's it.
Give the fire department a little work.
Politics is fun. It's really been great to hear from everybody. I just want to thank all of you. And there are three things I want to say. I'm Shelley Hughes. If you don't know, I serve in the Senate, and this is part of my area. Number one, I've been a little bit quiet lately because I've been trying to give a chance for all the primary candidates and also for this guy back here who I talk to several times a day to be educating folks about the binding rule. But I just want to let you know I've been working behind the scenes on that, and you're going to start hearing from me a little bit more. I do not have a primary, so I'm the only Republican running. However, I have a three-way general, and so I didn't really hear these guys talk about donating, but you can pick your candidate of your choice. But for me, you can all give to me because I'm the only Republican. So if you go to Alaskans for Hughes, there's a donate button. I have a Libertarian running against me and a Liberal undeclared, so that means the Libertarian is going to take some of those conservative votes. So we don't want to give the Liberal an edge, and so I really would hope that you would consider that. Also, I just want to say the whole thing about the bridge and everything, one of the things I've been working on and I'm very passionate about, and you know how you have to learn how to say no because you get too many irons in the fire? Well, I realized one of the irons I am letting go because it's moving along, and one of the new ones I'm taking in addition to fighting the binding rule, is one of the things I worked on was I led as a judiciary chair the repeal of SB 91. And with that, I pushed the need for recidivism reduction so that we are not churning out criminals worse, and so that our communities are safer, right? That's starting to move forward. There's a pilot project that I helped get going, and it's going to go. And when we open Palmer Corrections, my hope is that that will be more of a rehabilitation campus where we have faith-based programs that when people walk in the door to prison, when they walk out, they'll be in better shape. They'll be more ready to be. And I like the fact that they need to work. They need to be working. They don't need to be sitting around watching television. They don't need to be playing cards. They don't need to be napping all day. That's something I've been working on the last few years, and it's moving. So that's one of the irons. I'm going to keep watching it, but I'm letting it go. But one of the new irons that I'm picking up has to do with economic development, because that is the answer at this point. We are in an economic slump with COVID-19, with low oil prices. One of the things, and we all have heard it, is when there's infrastructure development that creates jobs and that stimulates things. So that's good anywhere in the world. But for Alaska, it's so important because we are still a relatively young state and we have tremendous infrastructure needs. You look at a map, there's only just a little area of it that has roads. So this is the opportunity for us. This is going to transition us out of the poor economy, and we're going to have to be very wise about it because we don't want to go into debt. We can use possibly the permanent fund in some kind of leverage where part of the investment would be in opening up new opportunities where there would need to be a return in a certain amount of year. It might not make it as fast as it would happen on Wall Street, but you'd get some return, and we get the benefit of opening up new opportunities for jobs and for healthy communities. So that's going to be one of the things I'm going to be pivoting to, and anybody that's a praying person, this week a lot of decisions are being made in D.C. I've been in touch with folks. The governor's back east to talk to the president about it, but you're going to see there's discussions in Congress about what to do about that. But let's just keep that in mind because I think that is one of the solutions for our state, and we are, it's prime time. We need it, and so let's all get behind that. Let's just see how that works out. And if you have any ideas, thank you for bringing that up because it really spurred on where I feel like, one of the next pathways I'm going to be taking. Of course, we don't know how organization is going to land, so don't know exactly where we'll be, and sometimes what you work on depends on where you're placed in the organization. So, but anyway, I think that's a really important one, and it gives me a lot of hope because, that's for the future of the next generation. So I'm pretty excited about that. Great responses. I'd like to pick a few things from different people. Really good job. And thank you so much to the Valley Republican Women for hosting this, as well as the Freedom Festival. And I want to give a shout out to Bibi, because I actually was out of state, and she stood in with Representative Tilton, did a great job for us at that festival. But the third thing I want to tell you is Saturday, I'm having a coffee chat Zoom at 8:30 in the morning. So it's early when you're really just getting up and having that coffee for a weekend. It's a little early. So if you want to be part of that, get in touch with me, and we'll get you the link. We love to have a lot of people from the community, and we tend to have people outside the district too, so that's fine. It's always a good conversation, chance for you to give your input, your ideas, and ask your questions and find out what's really going on. My hashtag is telling it like it is, and we continue to do that every chance we get, so thank you.
Regarding the parade, that Representative Kathy Tilton, who's here, and Senator Hughes, their float tied for first place along with Jason's float, and we thought maybe we were going to, huh? Did you see their float? Yeah. I was in front of it. Well, that you were a part of it, right? I don't know if they gave you any part of the money, but maybe buy you some gas or something like that. Anyway, and Mike, you had an announcement regarding a meeting upcoming.
Yeah, if you love these meetings, we're going to do it again on 8 August, Wasilla Senior Center, and I've got the senatorial candidates, I've got the House candidates, as well as the person that's running against Kathy Tilton, against Kopp, and against Natasha von Inhofe. And they're also invited as well. So 8 August, 11 a.m., Wasilla Senior Center. We had a big turnout this last time. Come on down.
I'm going to change my name.
Okay.
I'm not going to be Kathy anymore.
Kathy Giesel, excuse me.
Okay.
Plus, we upside the head.
Okay, we're getting ready to draw for Split the Pot, and Julie.
I saw a couple new people. Do you want to do Split the Pot, new people?
Sure. Is anybody that didn't get tickets, or you want to buy more tickets? What's the pot up to now?
It's $96 right now for your portion of the pot.
Okay.
That's
Anybody
very
else?
good.
Sumner's about to double it.
Do I see? Yeah. Okay. Guys, money.
It's 1 for 1 or 6 for $5.
I'm just doing the walkout bit.
Let me know.
Anybody else have any other announcements? Because we are doing the chili cook-off on August 7th, we don't at the present time. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Loy. Okay. All right. So since we're having the chili cook-off on August 7th, we don't currently have a meeting scheduled for August, a regular membership meeting. And we don't know for sure what we're going to do in September, but in October, what we're thinking about doing, because you know in the general election there are two very concerning ballot measures that you will be voting on. And so we're going to try to work for our October meeting to have maybe something at the depot where we'll have both sides on the change in the election law and on the gas tax. So that would be a pretty big one. And I think we all really need to be schooled on those as well as our community does. No? Oh. You guys are driving up. Okay, so we have somebody else. And don't forget, if you're interested in a gun, want to look for Ron, go ahead.
Tickets left on this, we're at 96, so there's just a few left. The drawing will be just in less than a month. So if you'd like to play a ticket, anybody want another ticket?
Okay. Ron, how many tickets are left?
There are just, I have 40 to 41 tickets left.
Only 40 to 41 tickets, and there's only 150 tickets that are sold, okay? Okay. They're still over here working on it.
I see that Jessica just dropped $100. So he's gonna win the money.
It only takes one. Statistically speaking, he has better odds.
So you want to talk to us about the chili you're going to enter?
Oh, no secrets.
No secrets?
No secrets. That's a surprise.
Just a surprise. Anybody ever chili?
Well, thank you everybody out there in Facebook land for tuning in today. You have been a wonderful audience. Don't forget to share. Facebook's squeals on you if you don't share. Also, no taking on mainstream media, making sure you guys are well informed, know who the candidates are this year, and the time and effort that it takes to be able to do all this has turned into a full-time job. So don't hesitate. Donate today. Go to politidick.com, POLIDICK, and donate. Click that donate button and help us out every chance that you get. It is most appreciated. All proceeds are going to upgrading our equipment and making sure our content is becoming better and better every day. Again, that's Politidick, POLIDICK.com. Click that donate button today and help us out. Don't forget to share. Facebook always squeals on you if you don't share. You all have yourself a great evening. Thanks.